So we, all of a sudden, sitting in his back garden, we had these things in common, which brought us, quite closely together. And he asked me to work for the Grateful Dead, basically because their previous manager, had run off with a huge pile of money, and they were about $700,000 in debt when I joined them.
Wow.
And they had to, do something about that. And, this is a bunch of hippies, you know what I mean? And everybody had to get serious about it
Exactly.
now, and pay the bills and organize their life so that it was, structured, like most people's life is, so that, the debts get paid and, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So I was called in to do that, and it was a hell of a struggle, but we went on the road for 2 years, and we didn't stop, man. We did not stop. We did as many gigs as we could for as much money as, people were prepared to pay us. Tried to have fun along the road, and, made sure that we rescued the Grateful Dead, kept the family together, and ensured that they had a future where they could, continue to play and bring people pleasure. So that was the remit, and I'm proud and pleased to say that we managed to achieve it.
And I'm proud and pleased to say that I'm talking with Sam Cutler. He was the tour manager for the Rolling Stones, Grateful Dead, and so many more. He's written a book. It's called You Can't Always Get What You Want, My Life with the Rolling Stones, the Grateful Dead, and Other Wonderful Retrobates. And it's on sale now, correct?
Yeah, it's on sale now, and also I should tell your wonderful listeners there that it's available as an iPhone app.
Ah, okay.
Where I'm reading it, the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, you can get it on iPhone, $9.99, so it's a good deal. You can get it on iPhone, and you download it as an app, not a book. It's an application with all kinds of videos from those days and links to all kinds of stuff and rare photographs. And I read the whole book in my beautiful baritone voice.
There it is.
You know what I mean? So people can drive in their car and listen to it, or they can lie down and have their lover make love to them while they're listening to my book, wherever they fancy listening to it. I don't recommend listening to it in the shower, but there you are. They can enjoy it that way. So it's available two ways, and that's actually a world first, that it should be released as an app and a book at the same time. So we're kind of proud of ourselves being old.
Absolutely.
My son always looks at me like I'm a kind of computing Neanderthal. I've got a 15-year-old son. His name's Bodie. I love him dearly, and he's like an expert when it comes to computing.
Yeah,
but he's quite proud of the fact that his dear old dad managed to put out his book as an app. So and I talk to people. Just the other day, I was on an airplane from San Francisco to Los Angeles. I was talking to this guy. He was a deadhead,
Mm-hmm.
So it was great to chat to him. He was thrilled to chat to me, kind of thing. And I said to him, "You got an iPhone?" He said, "Yeah." So he downloaded it right there on the airplane, and he was just tickled pink. The only thing with it was, of course, I couldn't sign his iPhone app, but I signed another book that he had. He didn't have my book, but he had the app, and he loved it. So he spent the rest of the flight listening to me the iPhone.
We're very excited because in talking with your publicity director, he is going to be sending us a couple copies of your book that we're going to give away to our listeners.
Brilliant.
And if I have a couple more minutes with you, I have three questions I'd like to.
Shoot.
First, I'd like to touch a little bit, of course, on the Altamont Speedway incident. Yeah. And you were obviously there in attendance. And you go into this in some detail in the book. Now, without giving too much of it away, because we want people to read the book, tell us, what was that like?
It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. It was the gig from hell. The worst gig that anybody ever could remember being involved with. It was shocking. It was really, really, really bad. And to this day, is an example of how not to do a gig. The gig was organised by, freaks in California, basically. Mm-hmm. It was organised out of the Grateful Dead's office by the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Santana. They were the four main San Francisco bands that invited the Rolling Stones to play. Mm-hmm. I arrived there 4 days before the gig was due to happen. They still hadn't established where it was actually going to be.
Right.
It was chaos, man. Absolute chaos. Everybody that was involved had a great heart, and they put their best energy into it, but they really didn't know how to organize an event of this size or complexity. So, one of the simple things about Altamont, which was one of the reasons why it turned into a disaster, there were many reasons, but one main reason was the stage was less than 3 foot high.
Right.
The stage came up to just above your knee. It was ridiculous to put the Rolling Stones on a stage like that in the middle of 300,000 people. So it was just a chaotic and horrible event.
And of course, ended up with tragically with a death from one of the members of Hell's Angels. And
yeah,
I know
the
that
guy got stabbed to death. But I mean, I should say that the guy had a gun, and he got 2 bullets were fired.
Oh.
And people on the stage were throwing themselves onto the floor of the stage, screaming, "He's got a gun!"
Wow.
It was a very, very heavy day. You can see it in the film, "Give Me Shelter."
Sure.
Yeah, it was not nice. Not nice.
Speaking of something that might be a little bit more pleasant, and this is one that I'm fascinated by, and I say 2 words, and you can probably just explain the whole rest. Winnipeg Express.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Festival Express we did across Canada was wonderful. We did a guy wanted to do this party, basically, and he wanted to go from Toronto originally to Vancouver and hire a private Canadian Pacific train. We hired this fantastic train, one of the longest trains I'd ever seen. There's sleeping cars and a dining car on it, the whole bit, and 2 cars where they took out all the seats, so there's place for the musicians to play, and the Grateful Dead, the band, Janis Joplin, Buddy Guy, Elephant's Memory, just a fabulous lineup of artists, and we played going across Canada in big football stadiums, and it was just one of the... Well, if you ask the Grateful Dead guys what was the biggest party that they ever went on, they always mention that one as the ultimate party. It was amazing, and I deal with it in at some length in my book, and it was just fabulous, fantastic.
And final question that I have for you: we're talking with Sam Cutler, former tour manager for the Grateful Dead, the Rolling Stones, so many more. Is there one person? I have my best friend that I can sit down and just for hours on hours we can reminisce about old stories. You've been through so much in all the years that you've worked with all these wonderful groups. Is there somebody out there that when you get together with them, you guys just sit down and I imagine you could go for days and just talk about stories that came up and just kind of recollect the past?
Sure. Well, there's 2 people like that. One's Rock Scully, who was a former manager of the Grateful Dead and the Charlatans and goodness knows who else, and he's an old member of the Grateful Dead family. He's one person that I do that with, but I think if I had to pick one person, it would be Ramblin' Jack Elliott, who I was just with. I've known him since I was 15, so we've known one another for over 50 years. And Jack is a great raconteur. He's 78. He just won a Grammy for his new album, which is absolutely an amazing album. An album of blues, no less. Yeah, his album's called A Stranger Here. He's a beautiful man and still on the road at 78.
Wow.
Just about to leave to go on a tour of Texas. So he and I got together, and I love him dearly, and we just had... Yeah, we talked about everything. Jack's played with everyone, from Bob Dylan to Johnny Cash to you name it. Jack's played with them. So it was wonderful being together with him. And, other than that, I guess I'd have to say my sweetheart, my girlfriend. She and I sit there and we have happy times together.
There you go.
She's sweet enough to allow me to ramble on and tell her all kinds of wonderful tales. But life has been great to me, and working with the Grateful Dead, being a member of the Grateful Dead family certainly has been the highlight of my, of not just my, working in the music business life, but my life, if you like.
Absolutely.
And that's something which I'll forever be grateful for.
Sam Cutler, it's been an amazing pleasure for me to speak with you. Of course, the book is You Can't Always Get What You Want, My Life with the Rolling Stones, the Grateful Dead, and Other Wonderful Reprobates. It's available now, and you are on a little bit of a tour as you promote the book. It's so far nothing in the Chicago area. So you're not, right now, as it stands, you're not going to come through our area?
Not coming through Chicago this time, but I hope to be back in the fall when we're going to do the middle bit. We're doing both the coasts, as so often happens. We can't go everywhere. But I hope to be back in the fall, and definitely Chicago, which is one of my favorites, is I want to come because I want to go to Buddy Guy's club, if nothing else.
There you
Chicago.
Go. Absolutely.
Buddy Guy was on that Festival Express across Canada. That was in 1970, so it was a few years ago. He was a young guy then. I'd like to see him again, and I need to go to his club. So I'll be in Chicago for sure.
Well, if you do make it in the Chicago area, we would love to have a chance to speak with you again. And I'm very much, I said, I'm only a few chapters into the book so far, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I know when we get to the copies that we'll be passing out to our listeners, they will be very excited as well.
Out of sight, man. Great. And love to you and love to all the listeners, and keep on trucking, as the Grateful Dead would say.
Absolutely. Sam Cutler, it's been my honor, my friend.
All right, buddy. Nice
Thanks.
talking to you.
Have a great day.
Thank you, buddy. You too.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.